Good morning. And welcome to our Sunday worship service. I am Zena Hartung, and I'll be your celebrant this morning. Today's topic is leaderless movements. It is one that has caught me up, and I've done reading and speculating with Ryan and others. Indeed, what is a movement all about? Is it measurable in real time? Do we know if indivisible, no kings, 50-51 rallies are making a difference? And if we look at history, those who study the women's movement, or Black Lives Matter, or even as far back as the French Revolution, are we ready to pronounce anything about our times? If you're a participant in these our times, you will, I think, find this discussion today intriguing. I'd like to extend a special welcome to all those who are joining us for the first time. We're very glad you're here. If you've come in person, we hope you have received a welcome packet with the information card in it. If you don't have one yet, please ask and fill it out and put it in the offering basket or drop it off. If you're joining us online, there's a link on our website to an electronic version of the same card. Our welcoming committee members have yellow name tags and can answer any questions or point you toward additional information. Whether you're new or not, please consider staying for coffee and conversation after the service, either downstairs in the fellowship hall or in our Zoom rooms. And now, let's say our words of welcome together. Whether this is your first or your 1000th Sunday with us, and whether you strolled, rolled, zoomed, ran, or danced in, we are glad you chose to join us. We are grown people, many families and identities and origins, sexualities, and cultures. All are welcome here. Now we will take a moment to say hello across the technical divide. First, we're going to show the people joining us on Zoom. If you're at home, please turn on your camera. People at home, please wave. Now, people who are attending the service here, it's your turn. Wave. Oh, wow. Look at all those hands. Okay. We do have an announcement that I'm aware of, and there may be more. Martha Schmidt.
We have 10 new chairs with arms. Elizabeth Berlinger and I applied for an Ignite grant to the board for chairs with arms for people with physical mobility issues, and we've marked them with silver ribbon on the back. Sometimes they're a little hard to see. If you sit down in a chair with arms and you don't really need a chair with arms, I'd like to ask you to take another chair to save it for someone who might really need a chair with arms to help them sit down and get back up. We have some here in the sanctuary. In general, we've tried to place them at the outside of the seating sections, and there are some downstairs in the fellowship hall as well. I'd like you to learn to be thoughtful about the use of chairs with arms. Thank you very much.
Any other announcements? Okay. Here end the announcements. The land on which our church is built is part of an ancestral homeland of the Nimipu, the people, and mistakenly called the Nez Perce, or pierced noses, of the French-speaking trappers and traders. We acknowledge the land is held in sacred kinship since time immemorial. The land and its people suffered immeasurable trauma brought by Euro-American society. We're working with its resilient peoples to show respect and contribute to the healing and nurturing of this Hitwit Huites precious land, all its peoples. We're hoping that the folks joining us via Zoom have a chalice or candle to light, something to light it with. Let's light our chalices together.
Just use a candle. Oh, did it burn out? Sorry, I can be honest.
In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek and seek to share.
Good morning. My name is Ryan, and I will be your service presenter today. So, for today's service, we're going to be learning all about leaderless movements. So, good luck. Well, I did write a sermon today, so I think I may as well read it to you. But today, don't think of me as your service leader, maybe just your presenter. So I will admit, this topic was inspired in part by the fact that Reverend Elizabeth will soon be leaving us, and we will be left leaderless for a time. But that's not really what this service is going to be about. See, many of the things we're now, like the big problems we're facing as a church and as a society, like authoritarianism and patriarchy, oligarchy, Christian nationalism, even AI, these are the result of hierarchical systems that are defined by unaccountable leaders who are acting in their own self-interest. These leader-led movements are defined by personalities rather than principles, and they can be frighteningly effective in the short term. But ultimately, they're fragile, and they're unjust, and they're prone to corruption. So in our quest for social change, we need to explore different ways of organizing and making decisions and taking action. We need leaderless movements. And we're going to talk a lot about that today, but for now, let's start off by singing one of my favorite hymns about journeying together in community. This is Wo Ya Ya. It's number 1020 in your teal hymnals. Let's sing.
So we'll have the words up also, but I've been handing out some instruments, so I want to make sure my professionists are all ready to go here. Can I get a volunteer for bongos? Yes. Great. Okay, so we need 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Now, let's take a moment to engage in the practice of generosity together. For those of you able to make a financial contribution, the logistics are on your screen. We typically give away all of the cash from our Sunday offering to local charities whose missions align with our values, a program we call the Month of Sundays. This month's recipient is Latah Recovery Center. Their mission is to help individuals enter and engage in recovery from addictions and mental health disorders through peer-to-peer interaction and evidence-based practices to promote a healthy community. They support all types of people in all types of recovery. To donate, please indicate Month of Sundays on your check or from the online drop-down menu. And in the spirit of love and for the continuing work of this church, we now take some time to practice generosity together.
Okay, so for today's meditation, we're going to sing. But we wanted to share the story from Mary Grigola, who wrote the next hymn. So these are her words, and there's this great website called Notes from the Far Fringe that goes through the UU hymnal and gives a little background and context for each of the hymns in our hymnal. So it goes through actually both books, all 1,064 hymns. So it's very cool. These are the words from Mary Grigola. I wrote this song when I was in seminary, taking a class on death and dying. Our assignment was to write our own eulogy, which of course means the good words we would like to remain after our lives. I thought what I wanted to say and what not to say, and decided that as a songwriter, I needed to say it in music. After I decided I would write a song for my project, I set the perfect ambiance. I prepared a tray with a journal and pen, tea and healthy snacks. I went outside into the perfect afternoon to sit under the Meyer lemon tree in my backyard, ready for and courting inspiration. I spent several hours journaling and grateful for the beauty of the afternoon. And no music came. None, not a note. And then I realized the hubris of the ego saying it would write the song. Scooping up everything, I accepted the folly of my presumption, and as I was balancing the tray, coming in through the door, yes, literally a liminal experience, I realized I was singing something under my breath, and it was the entire round, complete. What I take from this experience is the deep responsiveness of the universe/spirit/deep and creative self. When we allow ourselves to be present, to listen, to sing along, but not to assume we can control its scope or view. Okay, so we'll sing This Rose Will Open, and I will invite Isabella Ross, who came just to enjoy the service today, but I'm going to put her to work. Izzy has sung for us on many occasions. Some of you might recognize her, and she's also a student at U of I. So we're going to do this in a round. A round, yes. Everybody? Yeah? I see bright, shining faces. Yes. Good. Okay. So we're going to do 4 parts. You guys will be part 1. Debbie's giving me a look. Okay, part 1 over here. You're going to sing with Izzy, and she will stay on part 1. We're going to split right down the middle between, so Bill and your son, whom I don't know. Is that your son? Okay. And then Steve and Joel and everybody back that way. So that'll be part 2. All the 2s do this. Great. Okay, part 3. Awesome. And then part 4, everybody there and in the balcony. Okay, ready? So we'll sing it through one time. I know this goes I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will burn with dreams. I know this goes Okay, so back into character. We need to take a few moments of silence to meditate, and we're going to think about leaderless movements, and then Isaiah and I are going to play some minimalist piano music while we show a video.
Thank you so much for that. So, the natural world consists largely of self-organizing systems, like the ones that we just showed in that video. And hopefully you notice that even humans end up exhibiting a lot of those patterns when you get us into traffic or into a crowd. And these rule-based systems can achieve incredible complexity and elegance with no central authority or decision maker. Now, some natural systems do consist of hierarchies and pecking orders, but even in these situations, the leaders are beholden to set rules and patterns. Nature is by and large leaderless. Now, human systems, on the other hand, tend to be structured as hierarchies. We have empowered leaders up at the top, obedient followers below. If you've ever tried to organize a new group, you'll know that the first question that usually comes up is, who's going to be president? I think we like the comfort of just knowing who's in charge. Clear goals, clear directions, not having to make the hard decisions ourselves. And in urgent high-stakes situations like an emergency room or a war zone, the speed, the efficiency, the predictability of a strict hierarchy, well, those benefits make it well worth the sacrifices in autonomy or deliberation or equity. Obviously, there are drawbacks to hierarchies. When authority rests with an unaccountable individual or a few, corruption and self-dealing are basically inevitable. Very few of the people involved in an organization get to have a say, and this leads to poor decisions, throttled innovation, and a lack of buy-in. And the power structures of a hierarchy invite abuse and also create organizations that can't outlive their leaders. So hierarchies invest a few people with enormous power, but they do it by squandering the gifts of the many. So how then do we make change or drive movements or hold community without this kind of unifying center? How do we make human systems that emulate the elegance of these natural systems? Well, I'm so glad I asked. There are actually many models of leadership that don't rely on authority figures or chains of command, and I'll discuss several, but the main idea is this. Leaderless movements, instead of being personality-driven, are built around shared values, principles, relationships, and agreements. So when I was helping to get our local chapter of Indivisible up and running, we had to have the whole who's going to be president conversation. And while many of the groups I've been part of over the years have this problem of nobody wanting to be president, none of us wanted to have a president. For some reason, that title just doesn't have the same respect it once did. I don't know what happened. We ultimately decided we didn't want any officer positions at all, and we still don't. Instead, our group is led by a team of equals. Now, we each have specific areas of focus, certain responsibilities and interests that we have chosen, but no one's in charge. Every decision is a conversation and a negotiation. Now, you might be thinking, how can this be a leaderless movement if we have a team of leaders? But we're more like facilitators. We don't have any authority to make anybody do anything. Instead, we organize events. We give opportunities to the members of our group to act on our shared values in the way that they choose. We're mission-driven, not leader-driven. And this is one really good model for leaderless action. Another comes from another new local organization called United in Community, which I'm also helping to get organized. And it's, just for those who haven't heard of it yet, it's a coalition of democracy-oriented groups across the Palouse, all coming together so that we can do more together than having 8 separate movements. So this coalition aims to create a more just, inclusive, and democratic community here in Moscow, and hopefully will expand over time. But of the 8 groups that currently comprise this coalition, none of them is in charge. Instead, we have a rivers and streams model provided by the writer Scott Nakagawa. Now, one of the other United in Community members wrote up a synopsis of this model, and it was just so well written I couldn't improve on it. So I'm just going to read what she wrote. So, rivers and streams. The core idea is simple. Powerful movements are not built from a single source. They're built from many independent streams. Local organizations, faith communities, labor unions, advocacy groups, neighborhood networks, each rooted in its own community, each drawing on its own energy and leadership. These are the springs. Separately, they're real, but they're limited. A spring can water a field. It can't move a society. What changes the calculus is when those independent streams begin flowing in the same strategic direction without losing what makes them each distinct. They don't merge into a single organization. They don't dissolve their identities into a unified brand. They retain their autonomy, their local rootedness, and they coordinate. And the combined force of those streams becomes something qualitatively different from any one of them, a river with the power to reshape the landscape. This is how durable political power gets built, not by one massive organization directing everything from the center, but by many rooted organizations moving together, connected by shared goals and reliable communication, rather than institutional hierarchy. The movement is resilient because no single spring is indispensable. It's powerful because all the springs are moving in the same direction at the same time. End of the quote. So that's a second model for leaderless movements. Third model for leaderless movements is called sociocracy, and I just stumbled across this about a week ago while researching something completely unrelated to this service, so I guess it was meant to be. This one actually comes from the business world, where rigid hierarchies are usually a given. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail, it's a vast topic, but sociocracy attempts to emulate natural systems by creating complex, decentralized, nested organizations where all of the various parts are semi-autonomous. So they're both autonomous and interdependent, kind of like organs in a body. This system embeds values of equity and inclusion into every aspect of how decisions are made to create a model that has no center, just dispersed power and coordination. So if you're in a group that's looking for a different non-hierarchical model, definitely Google this one. There's a lot of great resources, and it looks very effective. A fourth model I'll speak to very briefly is matriarchy. Now, when people hear matriarchy, and I was guilty of this too, they often imagine a patriarchy, but with women in charge. But anthropologists who have studied matriarchal societies note that they tend to be far more egalitarian, decentralized, and communal than patriarchies are. And notably, men are rarely oppressed in matriarchies the way women often are in patriarchies. I don't feel qualified to say a whole lot more on this topic, but come back next week. Reverend Elizabeth will be speaking more on matriarchies at next week's service. So, where does all of this leave UUCP? Well, even with Reverend Elizabeth still here, I'd argue that this church is nonetheless leaderless already, because we're guided by our values and our covenants, not commands from on high. So as an example, as much as we love Reverend Elizabeth, if at some point she told us that we're going to give up on this whole pluralism thing and hop on the white nationalism bandwagon, would we fall in line? Would we go along with that? No, obviously not. We'd kick her to the curb. Or more likely help her get into counseling and maybe run a talk screen on her. So conversely, in a leader-defined movement, the charismatic leader at the top can contradict himself constantly, change policies and principles on the fly, break every promise, lie about everything, and the followers will obediently fall into line and do what they're told. I can't really think of any good examples at the moment. But this community is defined by principles, relationships, and covenants, not authority figures. Not chains of command. We don't obey. We choose how we want to engage with community. Yes, of course, we still have people in leadership roles, like what I'm doing now. Somebody needs to do this necessary work of organizing, calling meetings, setting agendas, making decisions, on, but it's ultimately our values that guide all of that. We are a leaderless movement here, one that harnesses the gifts of all of our members. One that respects our humanity, diversity, and democratic values. One that's thoughtful, deliberate, and compassionate, but one that still gets shit done. Just imagine if our whole society were organized this way. Now, I want to end on the topic of personal responsibility. As I mentioned at the start, much of the appeal of hierarchical structures is the desire to let someone else make the hard decisions, take the big risks. Simply following orders makes life, well, simple. These other models I've been discussing, however, they require emotional intelligence, people skills, relationship building, humility, trust, a willingness to negotiate and compromise. And I don't think it's any coincidence that men who lack these qualities are the most vocal advocates for patriarchy. That kind of mindless obedience, command and control might be all they're cut out for. But we don't need someone else to tell us what needs to be done to drive change. We get to choose to be that someone else. There isn't someone out there higher and better to save us. There's only us, and we can save ourselves. And if that sounds like too much, let me refer back to the natural world one more time. This is a passage about the wolves being reintroduced to Yellowstone. It comes from a UU World article called Kindness to the Thousandth Generation. And if you're in Wellspring, this should sound very familiar. Wolves had been hunted to eradication in Yellowstone by 1930, and for almost 70 years there were no wolves in the park. During that time, the health of the ecosystem and many species had declined. Elk, free from their predators, had munched the trees and bushes around waterways down to stubs. The beavers no longer had good materials to make their dams, so they were failing too. The numbers of fish and animals that live in the water had dropped dramatically. Birds of all kinds were struggling. The banks of the rivers had eroded, and the rivers had become shallower and slower. Everything was slowing and declining. It was as if the life force in the entire region was fading. In 1995, 8 Canadian wolves were released into the park. The pack of wolves that arrived that morning thrived and grew and eventually reached a robust population. As the wolves came back, one by one, plants along the riversides, the beavers, and all the other animals, fish, and birds began to return as well. Even the elk fared well. They just hid more in the deeper forests and didn't linger snacking by the water. The rivers themselves changed shape. They became deeper and faster flowing, with more estuaries to support wildlife, and more sharply defined banks because of better soil that was eroding less. This small group of wolves, simply by being themselves and doing what wolves do, brought back balance back to the ecosystem and life back to the earth. The biologists had tipped the first domino, and nature took care of the rest. That's the end of the passage. So these wolves had no concept of ecosystem health. The humans who did were still completely helpless to fix the problem, even with all their sophisticated knowledge. But with the missing piece restored, the system fixed itself. As the author concludes, we matter, and our actions matter in ways much broader and deeper than we could ever know. So I'd like to leave you with this idea that I think captures the heart of leaderless social change. Instead of trying to save the world, be true to yourself and trust that that is what the world actually needs. So today, instead of having our usual closing hymn, Zena is going to read to us the poem The Hill We Climb by Amanda Gorman. It's significantly longer than the poems we usually share during service, so feel free to settle in, get comfortable, and let these words of beauty just wash over you. Thank you.
I've read and reread this poem this week. It's inspired so many feelings for me. If you recall, Amanda Gorman was the young poetess who was tasked to write a poem for the inauguration of Biden's administration. This is what she wrote. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country in a time where a skinny black girl, descended from slaves and raised by a single mother, can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge a union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek that the globe, if nothing else, this is true. Even as we grieved, we grew. That even as we hurt, we hoped. That even as we tired, we tried. That we'll forever be tied together, victorious. Not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promise to glade the hill we climb. If only we dare. It's because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy, and this effort nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith, we trust. For a while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption we feared at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be. A country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens, but one thing is certain: if we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left with. Every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the West. We will rise from the wind-swept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation and every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
please join me now in the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this chalice that it might glow gently in our hearts. May it light our paths as we leave this place. May it guide our way until we are together again. To make a more just and equal world, I assume we do, we can't keep relying on the fragile, oppressive, and unequal hierarchies that brought us to this point. If our systems for taking collective action are not themselves just and equal, our best efforts will only perpetuate the oppressions we seek to combat. To make lasting, sustainable change, we have to structure our efforts around the values we want to bring into the world, like these ones, and let them, not personalities, guide us. By doing so, we'll already be well on our way to making the world more just and equal. So these values we have up on the wall and right up here, these are not things we're trying to achieve. These are not our goals. They are not the what of this church. They are the how of this church. We're not trying to change the world to align with these values. We're aligning ourselves with these values and trusting that once we do, the world will change around us, all on its own, with no need for leaders and followers, kind of like wolves in Yellowstone. Thank you all so much for being here today. I hope you'll join us downstairs after the service for coffee, or don't, because after all, you don't need me to tell you what to do. Thank you.